Hey folks on Patreon, this is the first Walks with Jack video that we're doing that's Patreon only. I hope you enjoy it today. I want to tell you we're probably not going to be doing a lot of walking around today. I've got a lot of stuff I want to cover with you. Some of it is pretty technical business stuff because that's the stuff that you guys asked about. But I just want to again say thank you very much. And please post more questions for me. Tell me what you want to know, what you want to learn. You guys that are seeing this video, the people are supporting me at $5 a month. I appreciate that a lot, and I want to make sure that we're doing our best for you and that we're putting out the kind of content that you're expecting when you signed up to support us as a patron at that amount. I am going to talk a little bit about the part of the property that I'm on today, though, because I think that's part of what people like about this. And I'm over in what I call my water gardens right now. And an area that will be expanded quite a bit over the next year. But this is what I call my lower pond down here, and I just figure I'll step out of the frame and let you get a look at it. Things are looking pretty beautiful down there. That big stuff in the back is pickerel rush. That plant in the foreground there, right there, that's actually a wild sunflower. And the stuff over to the side there, that's a plant called soft rush that we found, looks like reeds. We found that at a place we were hunting. And a lot of other cool stuff going on. I got some dwarf cattail in there. It'll actually be a plant that I can sell to yuppies on Craigslist for a little extra money, enough to pay for the fish's food down there probably for a couple months. And that's just the kind of stuff we're always looking for. How can we cut little side hustles here, little side hustles there without a lot of work? But building a business online is a lot of work, and I want to throw a special shout out to the humble mechanic. I guess I got to back up instead of step up for you to see the whole design of his shirt here. He sent me this a long time ago and told me he was working hard toward building that business of his own, and he's recently moved on and left the dealership, and he's doing nothing but his own thing now. And that's what I know many of you would like to do, and that's what we're talking about today. I didn't actually plan that today. I just picked the shirt out of the closet today, and when I turned the camera on, I'm like, oh, I've got Charles's shirt on, so I at least got to say something to him there. So what I want to start out with today is the concept of monetization. You know, what is monetization? What isn't monetization? One of the supporters here asked me for ideas to monetize a Facebook group with about 3,000 members. I'm going to say your first thing to do is make it 30 and 300,000 members before you're going to monetize that much. Facebook's a little tougher to monetize a group on compared to, let's say, a YouTube channel. If you've got, let's say, 3,000 YouTube subscribers, probably a good third of them have an email notification on, so you post something, like 1,000 people are going to see it. Unless your group on Facebook is really rocking and really active, you can have a group with 100,000 members and maybe 1,000 people to see it. Conversely, you know, you can have a group with about 20,000 members, and you put something up, and over a week, half the group will see it. So it all depends on how active you're going to make that group. So my first suggestion is, if you're going to use this as an asset, this group as an asset in your business, you need to make sure that it's active, it's well moderated. One of my most successful groups on Facebook is the Regenerative Agriculture group. I've got a group of like 8 dedicated admins on there that they just keep everything going well. And we started it with a spirit of getting things done, and it's part of why that it's been so successful. So that's something to consider. But I think you really have to think deeper about monetization, and that's what I want to talk about. Not so much how do I monetize this asset or that asset, but what is monetization and what isn't it? So a lot of people right now, our YouTube creators, are saying, well, if you want to monetize, especially given with what's happened with Google, YouTube, with putting the smack down on creators with advertising, and a lot of advertising content creators having lost a lot of ad revenue. Well, people are thinking, well, I'll just put Patreon there. Patreon will be my new monetization, and that's a problem. And it's nothing wrong with Patreon, but when people think, well, Patreon is my source of monetization, the problem is they don't understand what monetize means. So if you take a look at what I've done with my Patreon so far, and I'm going to be adding another level and maybe adding some new things and promoting more, I have to decide how much I really want to give to this segment of my business, right? How much time and dedication, because the more I promise, the harder I got to work, the more I got to deliver. And you got to decide that when you monetize any platform. And it's like, you know, in my first video, or a recent video that I gave out to the public, I gave away all my main monetization platforms. I even left a couple out. I realized after I did it. If you saw that video, you know that Patreon was my lowest producing revenue stream at the time, at about $100 a month. So I have revenue streams that produce 6 figures for me. So if I'm going to do something else, it's going to naturally take some time from other things. So I got to decide how, when, what, and how to implement. But yet I didn't just say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to put Patreon up and say, everybody on YouTube that watches me, that likes my channel, watches Duck Chronicles with your kids or whatever, give me $1 for doing it. I put in specific things. I used other assets that I had. So one of those assets, for instance, is the Survival Podcast, which is my main core business. And I thought, well, people that like my YouTube channel, probably most of them, at least in time, end up listening to the podcast if they like me and what I do anyway, and if they like podcasts. So I took the podcast and said, if you donate at $3 or above, you get the podcast commercial free. So that was easy repackaging. It takes me about an extra 15 minutes a day now to make a commercial-free version of the podcast and get that uploaded to Patreon. So that was an incentive. And then you're watching this video now because you're supporting at least $5 a month. So I said I would do things like this where I would give you access to what I'm doing in my business and talk to you about business principles and show you around the property in patron-only videos if you would support me at least $5. So the monetization there isn't Patreon. Okay, Patreon's a little tiny one. Like if you just like me and want to give me $1, you can. And I think you might as well do that. But what I found, I should almost just get rid of $1. I should almost get rid of $3. I should almost just do $5. Because for every, or I would say I have like 2 people doing $1. I have like 2 people doing $3. And I had like 4, and 2 of the $3 people upgraded to $5 people. Now, see, there's another thing though. If you didn't have that $3 thing in the first place, would they have come on board just for the commercial-free podcast? I don't know. But what I'm telling you is I have very few people doing $1. And, you know, a good, like 20 plus now doing $5, taking me up to $100 a month on Patreon. The monetization isn't Patreon. It's just the way you get paid. The monetization is what can you deliver to your people at a higher level than they would normally get without it. So in many ways, Patreon's like a members program. So I run a membership program that is my main source of revenue on my podcast. And that requires its own special software and things like that. And it doesn't put me into a larger community. And the nice thing about it, though, is I get all the money. It's been very profitable for me over the years. But I also have like this whole maintenance thing to do. And I think for a lot of people, Patreon can be a low-tech way to create a membership-like program. Some of the most successful people on Patreon right now are gamers that are giving away, you know, game secrets and stuff like that. Some of these guys are making tens of thousands of dollars in multiplayer games and stuff like that. I'm astounded at what some of these guys are making. But they're running it exactly like a membership program. The perks that they're giving away are reserved to different tiers. So that's another way that you have to think about this thing. When you're talking monetization, you need to be thinking real hard about what are you giving in return for what you're getting. Because I think there's this problem that I'm seeing with YouTube creators, and it includes some of the people that are anti-Patreon on YouTube. They don't seem to understand that at all. And I think it's a big part of it is the easy money that some of the big creators got used to with AdSense. See, with AdSense, you didn't do nothing. You just made videos and didn't worry about it. You clicked a button that said monetize your videos, and if you got, you know, 50,000, 100,000 views, you can make some good money. And I want to point something out. A lot of creators, big-time creators with large amounts of views, have been completely unaffected by this. It's only been certain people in certain genres that have been affected. So it's not like there's not any money there anymore. But I'll tell you what, I'm worried about the future of creators that are doing YouTube and their only monetization or their primary monetization is Google AdSense. We'll save that for the next segment. All right, guys, welcome back to segment 2 today of Walks with Jack. We're in the aviary now, and it's pretty late in the evening. And this is one of my favorite places. I think my favorite place on the property in the evening is about, where the sun is now, 2 hours from now when it's almost dark, and I go down and throw pellets in the pond for the catfish to eat. My whole life I wanted to own a pond, and with the property I have, the kind of pond I want is impossible, but I've got my little pond, I've got my fish, and I enjoy it. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is I want more people to be able to say that. I've wanted something my whole life, and now I have it. And that's what entrepreneurship's about. And that's why these Walks with Jacks are so focused on it, because I believe that, I put out all the material I could on homesteading and self-sufficiency and preparedness, and I don't think that I can do any more of that than I already do. I just don't think I have anything left. I've been doing it for 9 years. I got plenty more to give, but I don't have like premium content to do like that. So my thought when I did Patreon was I needed to give y'all something more. And what I could give you was more on how to provide independence and freedom in your own life through business concepts and business thinking. Also, I believe in enjoying myself, and one of the ways I enjoy myself is to make mead. We have bees on the property. We make some with our own honey. This is actually made with Oklahoma wildflower honey I got from a buddy named Jason, had a barter blanket exchange. And it's made with cinnamon, vanilla, and ginger. And let's give her a taste. That's good. That's about 7 months old, and man, I love me some mead. We have another little sip here, and we'll get on with this stuff. I realized as I was getting set up over here that I really didn't give a good answer to the question on monetizing the Facebook group. More on making it active. Here's why. My opinion so far with what I've seen on Facebook is when I do capitalize on my Facebook page, my Facebook groups, my Facebook personal page, it's useful, but it pales in comparison to what one post on my blog will do or one email will do. It just, especially for the numbers. I have an email list of about 25,000 people, and that's because I'm very good at keeping it updated. I mean, I've had well over 100,000 subscribe to it. When people unsubscribe, I cleanse them, so I'm not paying AWeber for their head count. People double subscribe, they get deleted. I have rules, so if you opt into one thing, you opt out of another, things like that. So I have a very clean, very active 25,000 head count email list. But my page for Survival Podcast on Facebook has 113,000 likes. But sometimes I'll put something up there, and when you have a page versus a group, you can actually see how many people see it because they want to sell you access to your own people. And it might be a really good post. It's really compelling and interesting, and I know my people are interested because it's blowing up on the blog, and it'll be like seen by 2,700 people after a couple days. And even when I pay them to get some exposure, so recently Paul Wheaton came to me and said, hey, I'm doing this Kickstarter for this new PDC/appropriate permaculture technology course, and I'm doing it on Kickstarter, and it's already funded, and if you'll help support it, I'll give you a 20% affiliate commission. And, I don't even need the 20%. Don't tell Paul I said that, but I really don't. He's been such a good friend to me. I'm going to help support his stuff. But I ran a little test. I put it out on my Facebook page, and I boosted it for $100 so that it'll reach about 60,000 people. So far for Paul, I've done $543 in sales. That same Kickstarter will go live on the Survival Podcast blog tomorrow. I bet you does several $1,000s in the first 2 or 3 hours. So I have less eyeballs on the blog through the email list than technically I have on Facebook, yet it's much more responsive because they're my people in a direct relationship with me. So the way I see Facebook, YouTube, etc., if you can find a way to directly monetize them, whether you're like some of these big producers that make thousands of dollars with AdSense, or just they're so big they make a lot of money on Patreon or whatever it is, then fine. But don't let that be your gravy. Don't let that be your main course. It can be your gravy. You need to get people into a direct relationship. So one of the other questions that we had recently was, well, how do I do that? How do I take somebody from YouTube subscriber to email subscriber? How do I take somebody from Facebook fan or Facebook group member to being on my email list or listening to my podcast or whatever it is that you're doing? Well, you incentivize them to get there. One of the really valuable things to me about Facebook is the people that are dedicated followers of me, by putting all my stuff on Facebook, I'm constantly in front of them. They don't forget about me. They'll see something, and sometimes it's just some random silly shit that I shared or something like that. So I see this value that way. But every once in a while, I'll run some kind of like an uptick. Like I want to increase the number of people that are actually subscribed legitimately to the email portion of my business. And I'll run a contest, and I'll put that on Facebook, and then I'll boost that. So if you have a really big following on Facebook, and you boost something like, I'm running a sale this month on my members program, it may not really do very well. But if you say, like, I'm giving away something free or something like that, you know, maybe I'm giving away one free membership. It doesn't actually cost you anything to do because it's a non-cash back product, it's non-physical inventory. And you say, you know, all you got to do is subscribe to my email list. And you might get people, well, I'm already subscribed. Well, you don't want to upset those people. So what you can do, I think like MailChimp and that does this. I know Aweber does. You can set up a second mail list. And you can tie it to the same RSS feed, which is the backside of your blog, so that everybody gets, every time you do a post, they get an email. And you can say, don't worry. This is a new email list. The old one's going to stay active, but if you subscribe to the new one, you'll automatically unsubscribe to the old one. And you just have two lists in the same account, and it's the same thing, and they do the same thing, and they're tied to the same sources, and it doesn't really matter. But it does make somebody butthurt that's been following you for 5 years that you offered something, and only new people can have it. So all you do is basically, it's an if then that type of a rules relationship that you can do with your email subscriptions. And you can think about doing that too when you're like moving people up a level. Like if you're having people buy something, and you want to make a list of buyers, you can put them through a first screen that has them opt into a new email list and then complete the order on the next screen. And what happens then is if they're already in your lower tier list and you don't want them to be in both lists, they come out of that and they're only in the upper tier list. So they'll get everything that was in the lower tier list, but maybe there's certain things you send only to them, like a higher level product that like the first product was a prerequisite for. These are ways to start thinking about using automation in your business. But what you need to be doing with YouTube, Facebook, I don't care what it is get them out of this place where you can't really control what happens between you and them. That Facebook can just say, yeah, we feel like changing our algorithm, you're going to reach 5% of your followers. That's about what you reach now. Or we're going to change our algorithm even worse so that you'll be forced to pay us to reach your followers. I mean, if you think about it, we are the people that built Facebook, and now they're charging us to reach the people that we built Facebook with for them. It's just the way that it is, though, because it's a third-party product. Now on Google, YouTube. So from now on, I'm not going to delineate that those two are the same. I expect you to know it by now. So the YouTube business unit of Google, what I think is coming is they want to get out of this whole world of having to deal with pain-in-the-ass advertisers that threaten boycotts because of their ads showing up on somewhere. And they'd prefer not to have to worry about advertising at all. But they need advertising for now. And they need it to move into the next evolution of their plan, which is they want to compete with iTunes Radio, Pandora, all the music services, Prime streaming music, and they want to compete with Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu Premium and all that stuff. They want to be an all-in-one encompassing thing of that. There's certain platforms that are looking to become universal platforms. Amazon and Google are both in that category more than anybody else right now, and they're further ahead. Freaking Amazon's trying to replace the Postal Service. So what Google wants to do is move to this red subscription service. You've probably been harassed with it. Remove the ads, try it for free, whatever. And basically, you sign up for YouTube Red, and you get content that's not available on regular YouTube. Plus, there's no advertisements. If you watch my Duck Chronicles video, you don't see an advertisement for Monsanto or whoever else was dumb enough to end up with their ads on my Duck Chronicles video. And this is because of a fundamental reality that I don't think content creators are ready to admit themselves. Your YouTube subscriber base isn't as valuable as you think it is most of the time. Not all the time, most of the time. I think that's why some of the big-time people on YouTube that have like 500,000 or more, when Patreon came out, I'm not doing that. Because they know a lot of their subscribers don't really give a shit. They don't care enough to pay. And I think they would be embarrassed if, like, they launched a Patreon. Imagine somebody with 750,000 subscribers on YouTube. They launch a Patreon in their first month. They do, like, $300. Don't you think they'd be like, it's Patreon's fault or whatever? And it's not. It's back to how do you monetize it, things like that. And I think some of these people have built such a relationship with people that are more along the lines of takers than sharers and givers and reciprocators, that they know that's what they have. They don't want to admit it. And the advertising revenue, it didn't matter. An eyeball was an eyeball. It might be worth 0.2 cents, was worth 0.2 cents. Now, this YouTube Red thing might be good for creators, especially big-time creators. Because I think they're going to do what you got. You can actually upload videos to Amazon Prime. We'll talk about in the next segment how you might use that as a monetary source. But if you're a creator and people are watching on YouTube Red, I think you get a certain amount of revenue for every so many thousand or 10,000 views of Red subscribers. So I think there's a way to monetize that. I haven't looked into it yet. But there will be, because that's how they'll incentivize you to keep creating if you're a big-time creator with a lot of eyeballs on you. And they need the ads for now so that there's an incentive. Like, why would you subscribe to YouTube Red if it wasn't for the ads? Well, content you can't get anywhere else, plus the annoying ads. Because I'm going to tell you, one of the reasons they're doing this, they know that the advertiser gravy train is going to end for them too. They do about $1 billion in ads on YouTube every year. A freaking $1 billion. Okay, $1 billion freaking dollars. That's a lot of money. And how effective do you think it really is? How many YouTube ads have really made you respond in any meaningful way? I mean, I got interested in the ones that were trailers for the new Star Trek movies and one or two other things. And 99% of the time, you're like, you can skip this ad in 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam! You can't wait to get off of that ad and get to the dadgone video. Well, YouTube's not real worried about that. What they're worried about is the advertisers themselves are going to start doing the math and saying, we're not getting much of an ROI on this. They have to start selling the advertising for less and less and less. So Google is a savvy company. And what they're doing is they're using it as a funneling mechanism to push subscribers into YouTube Red. And this is something that may or may not be good for creators. It may be good for big creators and not good for little creators. We just don't know. You have to see all of these services, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, I don't care what. All these things have to be funnels that lead to something that you control. We'll talk about that more in just a bit. All right, folks, so we've moved up here on the porch, and except for this fly, it's a pretty good place to be. Still have the mead working here. Nice, relaxing, zingy with that ginger and vanilla and cinnamon in it at the end of the day. And what I was talking about is you really need to be thinking about funneling people into your own direct relationship. And when you say, well, how do I do that? You know, I've given you some ideas, but the reality is there's limitless ways to do that. But a lot of it comes from being a strong personality, strong enough to resonate with people where they want to be part of what you're doing. And it also has to do with making sure that you're choosing the right thing to do it with. And I know some of you specifically are doing exactly what I'm about to say, and I don't want it to be demotivating to you, but I do want you to at least examine whether or not it's where you need to be. It's one of the things everybody's doing now is I'm going to work on my homestead. I'm going to put my videos of our homestead journey on YouTube. And that can work, but it has to be more than just what you're doing. Because you tell me what you're doing, and I'll show you 20 videos or 30 videos or 40 videos of people doing that. How can you make you, whether it's a couple and you're making kind of the relationship something, or whether you're an individual and you have a way of presenting it that's different. This is true in everything, but in saturated niches. And the homesteading, permaculture, gardening, land, back to the land thing, it's become a huge niche, and therefore it's become something that everybody's doing. And I would challenge all of you that want something of your own to really think about, like, what maybe is the best fit for you to monetize? Like, is it this thing? Because if it is, fine, run with it. Just understand, I'm wearing Charles's shirt today. To my knowledge, he was the first guy that ever did what he did. He was a mechanic for a dealership that came out and told the people the truth about what mechanics do and what dealerships do and what service writers do and what you do need to do with your vehicle, how much you should pay for it, how much you shouldn't pay for it. There weren't 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 1,000 channels of people doing that. When it comes to some of this other stuff, there is 20, 50, 1,000 channels. If you look at what I did with my channel, one of the most successful things we've done is the Duck Chronicles. It's different. It's unique. I know of one other channel like it, and I didn't know of it when I started, and that was the 50 Ducks in a Hot Tub guy. And not really the same thing either, but sort of. It was based on ducks anyway. But what I did that I don't think anybody else ever did is maybe they have now, but I don't think it was when I started 3 years ago with it. We're going to the post office today to pick these baby ducks up. And we're going to put them in the brooder, and we're going to share when we have losses, and we're going to do all of the stuff, the good and the bad together. So it was like a learning journey for kids. Now, if I had decided, well, I'm going to make this something big, and I had done, 4 episodes a week with high production value, I think I could have grown my channel to 100,000 people on that one thing alone because it was unique and different. Now, for me, and this is where I have to be careful here because I know that a lot of you trust what I say, and sometimes that's dangerous because you'll say something and you mean it in a way and people take it as an extreme, so they go too far with it. Because I've seen people build businesses 100% on YouTube. And if they didn't try it, they might not have been able to do it any other way for them. So you got to do what's right for you. But I have personally always seen YouTube as this peripheral thing. It's just, whenever I have video content, it's easy and fast to put it up there. It looks good. It always works. People can see it. Other people find it. And when people share it and what have you, they learn about me, and maybe they come over to my podcast, which is where the real action is. And I'm not saying that's the right model for everybody, but I'm saying that's the model that's best to consider doing. And I think that's really the case when you start to see providers like YouTube move into subscription models like YouTube Red. Because I'm telling you, that's where they're headed. They're going to be, they want to be direct head-to-head competitors with Netflix and with Pandora Radio at the same time. And that's what they're doing. And they have the financial means and assets to do it. And that could be good for you as a creator, or it could be bad for you as a creator. We just don't know yet. What we know is this. Google will do what's best for Google and Google shareholders. And that doesn't mean they're assholes. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that their decisions... So here's what I almost forgot to put it this way. And I wanted to make sure I got this in. When you are using a third party, you have to ask yourself, who does that third party serve? Who is their customer? So if we look at something like Patreon, Patreon's customer is the content creator. That's who the service exists to serve. Now, it also serves the patron. If it didn't, it wouldn't work. But Patreon's bread and butter is the provider. If you look at a merchant account provider like, PayPal, as you use them as your to process payments, who is their customer? Their customer is the merchant. That's their first customer. Unless people are selling shit, there's not a lot of money to be made by PayPal. So you are their customer when you're a merchant. Now, the buyer's the customer too, because the buyers outnumber the merchants, and it's the total transactions that make them their fees and what have you. But in the end, it's the merchant. That's why they exist. They exist to serve the merchant. Who is YouTube's customer? YouTube's customer is the viewer. Not you, not me. We are not their customer. We are a necessary part of their business for now, but we're not their customer. They'll do whatever serves their customer best and serves the bottom line of their budget best, which again, that's what they should do. That's what you're doing with your business if you're managing your business properly. An Amazon affiliate is another situation that you can get into. Who is Amazon's customer? Who do they exist to serve? The buyer, not the affiliate. So I'm fully aware as we build a revenue stream out of Amazon that one day that stream could run out, that it could just be, it's the end of the line for it. They could discontinue it. But I've looked at, they've run that program for over a decade now. And they've made some changes to it. The last one wasn't great for a lot of people. And I'll tell you, diversification makes a lot of sense, and here's why. My buddy Stephen Harris, he emailed me right after they changed it. He said, my revenue got cut to about 40% of what it was, my daily revenue. What happened to you? And I said, it went down about 15%-ish, maybe 15%. Why? Because Stevens built his whole plethora of product at Amazon around products in a very specific area that went from a high commission product to kind of a lower commission product, where I've built my book of business at Amazon around such a broad, diverse array of products that it kind of evened out the haircut. And because it evened out the haircut, some of the products actually the commission went up on. So my haircut was a little trim and Stephen got scalped. So diversification. So diversification within an individual revenue stream, like Amazon, selling a lot of different varieties and types of products. And diversification of revenue streams. Again, I run membership programs. I get ads revenue. I get affiliate revenue, like these multiple income streams. This is what creates resiliency in your business. And you need to always be thinking about that. And I'm going to tell you in the next segment why we do so well with Amazon and what it takes to actually do really well with Amazon. I know 2 ways to do it, the way we're doing it and one other way. And I don't know any other way to make any real money with Amazon, because I see a lot of people trying to do it in a way that's just not going to pay off. But in the end, that's all going to become contingent about what I'm about to tell you now. What you do is what's important, not where you do it, okay? Not whether it's YouTube or Vimeo or your own blog or whatever. It's what you do. It's the passion that you pour into your business. When you're doing a content-driven business, it's about connecting with people in a way where they say, I want to be part of this person's life. If you're doing it right and you threw a party at your house and said anybody that wants to come can come, you know, you'd block the streets with people that would show up because they'd want to just come meet you and be with you. And that's not something everybody can do. It really isn't. It's something most people could do, but it takes a difficult kind of a climb at times. It takes a purity and an honesty. If you look at the people that are really successful, they're not full of shit. They're not. They're very genuine. And they're very honest about what works and their failures and their screw-ups too. They're very humble people, right? Even people like me that can come off as arrogant, when you get to the core of things, we're very humble. If you come meet me, I'm kind of a big personality and all, but when you start telling me something like, you know, you changed my life or whatever, you'll notice I can't even make eye contact with you because I feel like you're giving me praise I don't deserve. It's this servant heart that actually gets this connection. And you can't fake it. So you either have to find it in yourself, or if you just don't really have it, then you have to figure out some other way to brand yourself or some other type of a product. More of a physical product business or something. There's nothing wrong with physical. I don't like physical product businesses. I hate them. But there's a lot of money. I mean, there's stuff everywhere. I got an $800 phone I'm videoing this on, sitting on top of a $30 tripod, and I got a little adapter for this thing because I lost the ones that came with it, and you know, I got my glass here that makes my mead taste better. I got my wife's weed eater. I mean, physical products are something people buy. I got a house back here. It needs work. So handyman businesses are something people buy. There's just so many opportunities. And I think the big thing, you know, when I was talking earlier about, having yet another homestead business, another, blogging business. Sorry guys, I have to do this. I've got a freaking fly in my mead, and this is about a 17% mead, so I'm not afraid to drink it, but he's got to come out of there. Yeah, I'm going to drink it anyway. Here it goes. The differentiating factor isn't what you're doing, it's you. And I got to tell you just one example of this because it irritates me, and then I'm also like, good for you. I was watching a video the other day of my own, kind of critiquing myself. And since it was like a landscaping, homesteading type video, there's the related videos. And there's this video, this really cute looking gal, and she's wearing like Daisy Dukes and like a shirt with a midriff belly showing shirt, and she's making compost. And she's very, very attractive. That video had like 330,000 views. And it was just, she was legitimately doing a video on how to make compost. Now, if you think she had 330,000 views just because she's good at making compost, you are a moron. You are an idiot. She's using her looks to build that business. But those are her looks. She earned them. Some of it she was gifted with, some of it she earned. You could tell she worked out and took care of herself and made herself look good and all. I don't have a problem with that. Bugs you a little bit when you're out putting out better content that less people are interested in, but you know what? You're not tuning in to look at me. You're tuning in to hear me. And that's how I had to differentiate myself, by having content that was unique and different and sincere and valuable. And so that's two extreme examples. You got a old redneck hippie duck farmer with guns, and you got a hot-looking gal in Daisy Dukes that are basically in the same genre, and both are successful in totally different ways. Now, is she making any money off it? Well, we know she is from AdSense, right? She probably didn't get balled out by the AdSense drop or whatever. But is it resilient? I don't know. But I know it could be. I know people that's their stick, is that the one person in the video every week is really a good-looking woman, and men tune in. And men, if you don't think you can make money selling good-looking women to men, then you haven't been paying attention to business. I know some of you that might bother you, but it's a fundamental reality. It's a fundamental reality that men will put their eyeballs where good-looking women are. I don't think you should be above using that if it fits who you are. If it's counter to who you are, then you don't do it. Like I said, I got a face and a voice made for radio, so I focused on the radio because I knew it was better for me. And I want all of you to think that way. What is the strongest asset that you have that differentiate yourself in a way that will make a connection with people, even if you're in the physical products business, where they feel like, I want to do business with that person? Next up, how we actually do as well as we do with Amazon affiliates. Okay, if you saw the video that I did a couple weeks ago, where I gave away in order my revenue streams and how we derive our income and where we do best and where we do not so good and things like that, you might remember that I told you guys that we do about $32,000 in sponsorships on the blog, where people actually pay to be mentioned on the show, and they get about one mention a week, and they run a banner ad on our website. And the reason I gave away that number is because anybody with a calculator and a fourth grade education can figure it out. So I don't want to brag about our income. I'll just say that we're successful. But I did think it was reasonable, with some of the questions that were coming in, that I give away kind of the tiers of my income. And I got quite a few emails going, really, you do that well on Amazon? Because they didn't give away what we've done on Amazon, and I'm not going to. Because some people get really butthurt when they hear you're successful, and if you give them a number that's too big, they'll attack you for it. And for some people, well, you should be doing $1 million. Well, we'll do over $1 million in sales, but they don't pay commission on 100%, right? But it was greater than that, and I'll tell you, it's significantly greater than that. And I got a lot of questions from people. How, I've been trying to do Amazon forever. I make a couple $100s a month. How do you do that? How do you do what you do with it? Well, a lot of people think I'll just put Amazon affiliate links on my site and I'll tell my followers about it, and they'll use those, and because they use those, whatever they buy, I'll get credit for it. And that is how the affiliate program works. But you have to be careful with any text. If you're too direct about that, you can actually get a nasty gram and even kicked out of the Amazon affiliate program. We'll talk about that in the next episode, not the next segment. But that's not what I do. First thing I did was I built a following of people that listen to my podcast and value my opinion, and I never swayed in my integrity, even when I made mistakes. And I built a track record where people said, I can trust what this guy says. And we came to Amazon very late. We only introduced Amazon last spring as a thing on the site, and that was 8 years into our business. So we're an overnight 8-year success, right? 8 years, but it's an overnight success as far as the Amazon affiliate programs go. But if you guys go to my site, you'll see that I do a review almost every day of a product that's on Amazon. The key is I own 99% of those products. There's probably, out of items of the day that I've done for about a year now, so that's probably 250 items. I've done some, sometimes just recirculating items. I'd say about 250 reviews I've done. There's probably 5, if that I don't own. And of those 5, they're items that I either used to own and don't own anymore, but like maybe I upgraded, but this is a good entry-level product, or they're a product that I don't need, but I've touched, I've held, I put my hands on because a friend had them. I've had one item that was given to me in return for my review, and it was an item I probably would have bought if the guy just said, hey, you want to buy my item? So I was okay with that. I had one other item that was submitted to me for a review, and it got to me, and I said, I don't think you want me to review this item because it's not going to be a positive review. And people know this. And I discuss the merits of the product in my reviews. I discuss why you'd want the products, and I give people information and education within that review. If I give a product that's like dried chili peppers as one of the items, I sold I cannot tell you how many bags of dried Thai chili peppers I sold last year. But I gave away a recipe for how to make a chili garlic pepper oil. And I also gave away a recipe for what to do with it. So I made it more engaging. And I do that because what happens is that review comes out every day. And there's plenty of people that they don't buy that item, but they read the review and they click on Amazon to look at it and they read the Amazon reviews. And guess what? On that device for the next 24 hours, if they happen to buy anything from Amazon, well, we get credit as the affiliate. And there's another one tomorrow, and another one tomorrow, and another one tomorrow. And what that means is people don't forget. You got to realize people aren't going to remember all the time like, oh, you know, that girl that I watched that walks the Appalachian Trail, she has an Amazon account, and I'm buying something on Amazon today. I'm going to, you know, get on over to her site first and click on that link. And, you know, you'd like to believe that your followers are that loyal, and some of them are. And honestly, again, the 1,000 True Fans model works. If you can build 1,000 people that are like that, like you are their online person that they support with what they do, especially when it didn't cost them anything other than maybe an extra second to go to your site first, yeah, you can do it. But it takes a long time. 1,000 True Fans, they're 1%. They're 1% of the people that pay attention to you at all. So you're talking 100,000 to get to that 1,000 dedicated base. And you got to love on them, man. You got to take care of them. You got to really take care of them. And if you're successful, you end up building a core base of about 10,000. And then you can live the life you want for the rest of your life. You really can, unless you do something really stupid and shoot yourself in the foot. But by having first the integrity, second the educational component, third the reputation that, hey, if this guy says this shit works, it's going to work. And the following to build it off of, and the repeated nature of it. The fact that it's there every day. You're going to get a podcast and a review every single day. And it's unique stuff you didn't think you needed or never thought about or what have you. And what ends up happening then is they buy one or two or three things you recommend. And they say, you know what, this actually makes my life better. And they start going back. And it's amazing to me when I look at my sales reports on Amazon. I'll see on any given day 2 or 3 orders for an item, and I'll go, I reviewed that like 6 months ago. People are going back through, searching the site, what have you. Or reordering items and saying, and when they go to reorder, they say, well, I learned about that from Jack. I learned about this tea mix from Jack, or I learned about this spice grinder from Jack, or this emergency radio from Jack, or this cell phone accessory from Jack. And I want another one, or I want to give one away as a gift. Well, hell, I'm going back to Jack to get it. I'm not even sure I remember exactly what model this is, because you have the thing in front of you, but you're not really like, there's no name on it, you know. I go back to the source. You become the source. You become the source of quality, dependability, and education. So I want to talk to you a little bit about something I gave away a long time ago on 5 Minutes with Jack Business podcast. The golden trifecta of marketing. People buy things other than because they need them for only 3 reasons. Education, entertainment, profit. That's it. You show me anything people buy, and I will show you they bought it for education, entertainment, or profit. You're going to be like, Jack, you know what? I bought that spice grinder you reviewed. I did not get an education from buying the product. I might have learned about it from you, but I didn't buy it for education. And I didn't buy it for entertainment. I don't get really excited when I watch the little coffee beans go around in there or my spice go around in there. And I don't get a profit off of it. Well, yes, you do. You paid $13 for it. And it now allows you to make your own seasoning and spice mixes, and you're not spending the money you would normally to buy this pre-mixed shit, and you're making a better product that does a better job for you. Any product you buy is profitable or you wouldn't buy it. It's profitable here. Not necessarily in direct dollars, though sometimes that's the case. But if a product isn't profitable, you won't buy it unless it's mandated. In other words, you buy things because it alleviates your discomfort or it makes you feel better. That's why you buy things. So whenever you're looking at a product and you're saying, do I want to buy this or not? What you're saying to yourself is, well, how much work did I do for this $60? And do I feel I'm getting more than $60 worth of value out of this? Because if you're not, well, I'll spend that money somewhere else, so just hold on to it. And you have to think like that as an entrepreneur. How am I selling my product? Is being educational, entertainment, or of profit to the buyer. Or an old thing from the sales training is features tell, benefits sell. All right? And that's the case. Features tell you what the product is, but benefits tell you why you want the product. If I tell you this knife has an ergonomically designed handle, right, then that's a feature. Maybe you don't even know what it means. But if I say it's very comfortable and allows you to chop vegetables faster, that's a benefit. It's made with, you know, blah, 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 surgical steel. That's a feature. And the only way that sells is if you inherently know enough, you're an educated enough consumer, that you know the benefit is holds an edge really well. But I'm not selling only to the educated consumer, so I want to lead with the benefits of what I'm doing. So whenever you're putting together your marketing strategy, you're trying to get people to opt into an email list, you're trying to get people to buy something, sell them on the benefit, not the feature. So many people don't do that, and make it easy for them to do business with you. I got one more segment for you today, and I think this one's going to blow you away, and it's going to tell you why every single one of you have the opportunity to succeed, even though sometimes what I'm saying, you start saying, this sounds hard. It can be hard, and it's a good thing that it can be hard, because if it wasn't hard, everybody would be doing it, and nobody could be successful at it. We'll catch up with you in just a second. All right, guys, last segment of the day, and I've kind of saved the most important one today for last. I want to work as much on technicals as I do on philosophy, and maybe even more on philosophy, because with business, your philosophy will lead you to the correct technicals for what you do. It's the overlying philosophy leads to the strategy, and the strategy leads to the tactics, and the tactics lead to the techniques, and we execute the techniques, and that brings us back to our philosophy, and we start all over again. If that makes sense. If it doesn't, keep trucking on, guys, because it will. I mean, that's how successful business people think. So I want to talk to you about something that seems to be a little disheartening at first, and it's actually very empowering when you truly understand it, and it's called the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 principle. And this is something I learned about in school, and apparently they don't teach it in school anymore. And what brought it back to my memory, I'm going to turn that a little bit there. What it brought it back to my memory was a recent video I watched by Stefan Molyneux, who is a political and philosophical YouTube creator. Comes from the anarchist voluntarist school of thought, and the video was called This Is Important. And I had no idea what it was about when I was going to watch it, but he started talking about 80-20 principle. And it kind of dumbfounded me when he said they don't teach it in schools, not even universities anymore. I'm like, really? But when he was explaining why, like, because it talks about being exceptional and how exceptional people get more done and therefore get greater reward, and why trying to make everything equal will never work. Because if you do that, you just, disempower the people that are exceptional and they don't do it anymore. Or there's an elite class anyway. And so that's where this is coming from as far as being refreshing. I just believe in giving other people credit when you create content that's based on something you heard from them. So I'll put a link to that video. It may or may not interest you in the notes that go along with this post on Patreon. Freaking mosquitoes are out tonight, guys. I'm sorry. But I just want to give credit where credit is due. I have kind of a different take on that here that it just made me think of when I was thinking of content to put together for y'all. So what the 80-20 principle says is, in any organization or large group, 20% of people will do 80% of the work, or get 80% of the results, or get 80% of the reward. That's just the way that it is. And I think back to when I worked for a company called Microtest before Fluke bought us. And actually working for someone that understood this, and I was a sales manager, and there were 4 of us, and he said flat out to the company at a company meeting, like a company-wide meeting of 400 people, these 4 people feed all of you. They're our infantry. And I don't think he thought we did, just the 4 of us combined did 80% of the work of that company, because there were people that had to do work on the other side too. But he knew we were in that 20%. And we were all judged on performance. And unlike a lot of people, we couldn't just keep our job by half-assing it. If we were half-assing it, our quota didn't get met, we get fired. And that's why salespeople are generally 20%ers. So it doesn't matter. You could have a company with 5 people in it, and it's probably the case that one person does 80% of the work. You have a company with 100 people in it, and about 20 people do 80% of the work. Did I say with 5, one person does 80% of the work with 5? 20 out of 100, 200 out of 1,000, 20,000 out of 100,000. That's just how it works. And when we start applying, we start realizing that applies everywhere. That applies to YouTube creators. That applies to bloggers. And in these worlds like this, where it's not just directly correlated to how hard you work, but how smart you do everything. How good you are at your creations, how good you are connecting with people, how good you are implementing your strategies, how good you are at monetizing your efforts. All of that comes together. And you either get the results or you don't. There's no paycheck at the end of the week for an internet entrepreneur or any entrepreneur unless they actually make results happen. So that sounds great as long as you think you're in the 20%, but for a lot of you guys, you're thinking, well, maybe I'm not a top 20%er. Here's the good news about the 80-20 rule. With very few exceptions, anybody with enough motivation to try is a top 20%er in something. And this is why I was talking earlier about, make sure you really want to do another homestead YouTube channel. If you're going to be a top 20%er, go on. I don't mean top 20%er on YouTube. I mean top 20%er in that niche. In that niche. That niche is huge. You know how big that niche was on network television? It was tiny, itty bitty. Couldn't even see it. Did one show here, one show there about it. You had to be a top 1%er to get the little thread of what was available on TV. See, the internet introduces something called the long tail. The long tail is when people are searching for something like cell phones, when we go to search marketing, cell phone. It's pretty hard to rank #1 on Google for cell phone, as you might imagine. Cell phone accessories, still difficult, but a little bit easier. Best price cell phone plan on AT&T wireless with free iPhone. Actually pretty easy. Best cell phone service plan for Dallas, Texas, right? And this stuff's kind of tightened up a little bit over the years, but back in the day, I made a lot of money using search phrases like that. Why? Because even though there's a lot less searches for it, there might be a gazillion searches for cell phone, and a quadzillion searches for cell phone accessories. But there might be only 10 searches for best cell phone plan in Dallas, Texas. But all 10 of those people know exactly what they want. And if you get their eyeballs, they're a lot more likely to take action, okay? And if we take the top search terms, they'll follow the 80-20 rule. 20% of the search terms will get what looks like 80% of the traffic in this big graph, and it'll drop off, and then this tail will form. But the long tail breaks the 80-20 rule. It's almost the first time in history the 80-20 rule has been broken in anything, because it's not just about workers or people or production and output. It applies to everything. You go into a woman's clothing store, 20% of the items make up 80% of the sales, because there's a finite limitation how many people you can hire, how many people are in a company, how much inventory you can have in a store. What's the limit on content on the internet? We ain't found it yet. So that tail trails off like this, and it gets to where people stop paying attention to it, and it goes a mile that way. And if we take the long tail and we stand it up and we compare it to the top 20%, the long tail outweighs it. What does that mean for you? That means all you have to do is find the place that you are a top 20%er in and go with that. Don't do something because, well, everybody's doing it. Don't do something because, well, nobody's doing it. Do it because it's what you're really passionate about, you really love, you really are an expert in it, or you're so damn passionate. In your journey, you're going to become an expert because you can't help yourself, because every minute of every day, that's what you want to look at, that's what you want to do, that's what you want to talk about, that's what you want to learn more about. If homesteading is just something you want to do because you like it, what is the piece of it that you are head over heels madly in love with? Because, as I said before, how many people do you need? You need 1,000 true fans. 1,000 people that are willing to spend 1 day's income a year on you. Because you're going to have more than that. You're going to have some super duper fans, a few small groups of those, that will buy anything and everything you do. And you're going to have a whole bunch of long tail fans that'll buy a little bit here and a little bit there. But that core group, do the math, guys. 1,000. How many days are in a year? a little over 300. So 3 people, so 1,000 divided by a year is about a third. And that means if you have 1,000 people spending a day's wage on you, your income's an average of 3 median wages. 3 times the median wage, just with 1,000 true fans. How many people are on YouTube on a daily basis? So I said earlier, I think the number's about 50 million. I could be wrong, it could be bigger. What's 1,000 of 50 million? How small a piece is that? And that's just YouTube. How many people are reading blogs every day? How many people listen to podcasts every day? How many people are buying something that you could be creating every day? How many people listen to music every day if you're a musician? How many people read stories if you're an author? That's all you need is that 1,000 true fans. And then you need to make sure that your monetization gives people the opportunity to spend a day's wages with you. And what's a median day's wages? Take the minimum wage, multiply it by 2, multiply it by 8. That's a day's wages. And you need at least enough product that your 1,000 true fans can spend at least that much money with you as profit. So it's highly dependent on what you're doing. If you're making knives and you sell a knife for $90, you have $30 of product and labor into it, that's $60. If you're selling a membership program for $90 a year, what's your profit on it? It's probably not what you're thinking. You think it's $90. It's probably more like $85. When you factor in hosting and customer service and all that you have to do, it's still probably like $85. See, that's why I personally am not a huge fan of physical products. But as I said earlier, I got physical products all over the place. You know? People need stuff. I got a stock tank sitting there behind me holding fish in it. I didn't make that stock tank out of thin air. I didn't fart it like a unicorn farts a rainbow. I had to buy it from somebody. So it's okay to be in that business too, if that's what you're good at. And that's what I want you to realize, because here's the truth. The 20% has a very small barrier to get into, because you can get into it with hard work, a little bit of smarts, and some moxie. But we got to understand again, the person that's an 80%er is light years ahead of a person that's a 79%er. It's like the Richter scale. An earthquake that's a 1 and an earthquake that's a 3, you can't really notice much difference. But an earthquake that's a 7.5 versus a 7.6, there's a difference. And it gets exponential as it goes. And when you go into the top 80%, going to 81 is hard. Going to 82 is harder. Going to 83 is really hard. Getting above 90, it's very, very difficult. And the top 2%, the people in that 2% that everybody wants to villainize, you're born genius and you know how to apply it. That's what that group is. But with the long tail factored into it, anybody can get up in that top 80, 85 to 90%, and that's enough to live your dreams. But only if you find the place where it is true for you. We are all geniuses at something, but what are you a genius at? Is it just making content? Is it humor? Is it kind of parody? I mean, there's so many options out there. It doesn't all have to just be mechanically, you're going to learn how to do this with me. That takes a lot of charisma to pull off. Some people are really good at it. If you are, go for it. But find the thing you love. Go for it 100%. Blow your way in, like with dynamite, into that top 20 percentile. Monetize it effectively. And keep building and keep learning. And you can be successful. Hope this one's helped you. Keep telling me more what you want to see in the Patreon notes and the video notes for this. Just right there in the comment section. Tell me what you want to know more about. Tell me what you have questions on. I'll do my best for you. I'll give you my commitment to that. Catch you later.